Okay, now the steering wheel's out of the way, what I tend to do is start with the axles. We've got the front axle here with the centre steering boss, the rear axle with the two fixings through the middle, and finally the handbrake. And we're going to need the components for that. So we've got the nylon bush and the outer cover, and we're going to need 3 of the small fixings there. So we've got 3 of those. I just undo those so they're ready for action. And I found the easiest thing to do when assembling the axles is to stand the wagon on its end. And this just allows you to have access from both the left and the right hand side. First on is the nylon bush, which you can see it's got 2 orientation pins. Locate that, you can see there's a couple of holes there that can locate it on. And that helps protect the wood and gives a nice free turning surface. Next is our axle, making sure that the handle mounts are orientated towards the front of the wagon. You can put that in position. And finally, we've got the outer boss cover, which helps hold all this together. You can see there, that should orientate up quite nicely. And drop your fixings through from the back. There they're coming through. That's your first one. What I tend to do is just push these all the way through, and then we can go to the trouble of tightening them in a minute. Grab our nylock nuts. You can put that on there. Just get that finger tight. Again, with the flat side facing the wagon and the rounded side facing out. That will do up there. And my tools to do it up. So the wrench under there, Allen key, and we just wind that in until it's tight. Work around all 3 of them. Okay, that's the front axle on. Next we'll do the rear axle. So the rear axle is obviously the straight axle with 2 holes in it. And we're going to need the 2 longest bolts to hold that in place. Again, like I did before, what I do is I push the bolts through first. Gives us something to orientate the axle with. Once they're there, we can then bring the axle up to it. One on first, second one on. Grab our nylock nut. Flat side to the axle, rounded side facing out. Just get that finger tight. Grab my wrench and Allen key. I just grab my hardware, so my winch tool on one side, Allen key on the other. Do that one up and get that tight as well. Okay, so that's our front axle on, our rear axle on. Next is our handbrake. So the handbrake itself is this long thing with the wooden ball on the top. There is 2 brackets that are going to be one on either side for that, and we should have 4 small medium-sized bolts with capping nuts, nylock nuts there ready to go on. Okay, what again, easiest thing to do is to put the fixings through the plywood first, so we've got something to look at. Okay, the metal plate. So we've got a metal spacer plate that goes on next to the plywood. Gives us something to keep that axle in place. And the second one. Now, orientating the axle. The axle has a stop on one side and a screw on the other. And they are to sit inside those metal plates. So the handbrake is to orientate between those 2 fixings. That's the correct position. Putting the outer cover on. You can see now that's how the brake orientates. Grabbing our nylock nut, just get that finger tight. Tend to do the top ones first. Get that finger tight. Flat side to the steel, rounded side facing out. Finally the bottom ones, obviously again with the flat side to the wagon, the rounded side facing out. So we've got our wrench tool again. Orientate that on there. From the other side, use the Allen key to do that up.